Let me get my pen so I have something in my hand. Hello and welcome to A Lonely Critic. My name is Anthony Renteria, and today I just got out of my screening for The Worst Person in the World. I have a little structure here that I'm hoping to hit so this review can hopefully flow a little smoother. I also set a 15-minute timer, so I'm probably going to try to rush through this, which really sucks because I absolutely love this movie. Let's get right into it. What is The Worst Person in the World about? So essentially it's a story about a young woman played by Renate Reinsve, and I guess her journeys through life and relationships. It has a very interesting structure narratively, so I think it's kind of hard to like sum up in a couple of words, but it's definitely about just a woman's experience through multiple relationships and just what that entails for her psychologically and emotionally and physically. So narratively, it plays almost like a anti-rom-com in a lot of ways. I'm sure if you've seen the trailer, you'll know a little more deeply. I don't want to really dig too deeply into the plot points and the narrative core of it, because I like going into movies blind, and this is a no spoiler thing, so if you wanting to watch the movie, I won't spoil anything for you. So yeah, so that's kind of the gist of the general plot. I want to start out with the narrative. This is my new structure here, or what I thought of the narrative of this film. And then also, just as a pretext, so I watched this movie with my friend Scott. Right after the movie, we talked about the movie, and then we talked about writing. He's also a fellow writer. We talked about a lot of stuff for like an hour and a half, so I am a little burnt out mentally. Firstly, because of the film required a lot of processing, and then, you know, the whole conversation we had. So if this review feels a little short or dim or non-intellectual, I feel like I've already talked about the film, so it's hard to like give an immediate impression when I just gave him one, and then we kind of broke the whole story and stuff. Speaking of breaking, he will be launching a YouTube channel where he breaks down narratives, and it's gonna be super interesting, so check that out. Whenever it launches, I'll update this video with the link to his channel in the description. To get into the story of the film, basically, I absolutely love this film. I mean, I think this is probably, oh my god, like it hit all the spots that I wanted to emotionally and just character-wise and story development-wise. The film is very strange in the way it plays out, because it constantly doesn't give you what you want and what you expect, and then it goes into like multiple tangents, but then towards the end of the film, it's almost like all those tangents were absolutely fundamental, but during the viewing of the film, it feels almost like abstract in a way, because it just feels like this woman is just going through her life almost thoughtlessly and without care. But I found it to be almost the opposite. I absolutely love the story of where this film goes. I love all the things that happen in the story. I was over the moon with so many things that happen in this film. It hits all the things I love about the romance genre in this weird anti-romantic way, but it was also like super honest in the way it was portraying what this woman felt, what this woman desired, what this woman wanted in her life, even though it at times feels like maybe she doesn't know what she wants. Then again, like, does anyone know what they actually want until they get it or when they lose it? So it tackles that kind of idea and that concept in such a beautiful and brilliant way for me. And then I just think the title, The Worst Person in the World, is just such a beautiful title. It ties in with the film constantly, and it feels like it's always simultaneously contradicting itself, but then also reinforcing itself, and I found that to be absolutely beautiful. I think the performance from the lead actress and the performances of the two male actors were absolutely fantastic. I mean, just some of the best acting I've seen all year. I mean, technically this film is considered a 21 release. I haven't decided if I'm gonna count it as a 21 release. I'm very like picky what I consider a film to be released in its calendar year, so I'll have to like check my sources to make sure. So yeah, this film is just about this woman who's just going through life, constantly trying to figure out what she wants. And I think for me, that really hits a very personal tone, because I am in a current state of like, what do I want in my life, and what am I doing, and why, and what makes me happy, you know? And then a lot of times, well, it is a very selfish way to live, and I think that may be the best way to live, is very selfishly, because at the end of the day, it's your life. So if you're not doing something that pleasures you or satisfies you or makes you happy, then what are you actually doing but doing something that satisfies someone else or makes someone else happy? And I think that that's just such an interesting like idea and concept to tackle, and I think the way this film tackled it was just so beautiful in the way it's written. The dialogue, there's like many moments where the film is almost like kind of really subversive the way it handles certain moments and scenes in the film. There's like a couple moments where the film goes into like narration, but it's so unique because it's going into this like narration element, but then you actually hear what's happening. So it's like a double, almost like a double dialogue that the film is having with you and itself, where it's saying so-and-so is saying this, and then you see so-and-so saying this, and you hear so-and-so saying this, and it just really worked in a profound way on me. And then just so many moments in this film that I'm just like replaying in my mind. There's this is probably one of the first movies that I've reviewed for this channel where I absolutely want to make a spoiler discussion, because there's so many great moments that I wasn't expecting and that were handled in such a creative, original way that really dug into the emotional core of the film, which is what this woman wants in her life. And I can't really get into it without spoiling stuff, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story. Way more than I was even anticipating. I was extremely excited for the film, but I thought it was just gonna be your typical kind of indie, artsy, foreign film, but is so much more than that, and it just feels like a substantial text. One thing I want to mention before I get off the narrative topic is I love how the film just continually digs deeper. And like, this is something, maybe I haven't said it in this channel yet, but I know I've mentioned it a bunch of times in my Cineverm film podcast and in previous reviews, written reviews, is that I love when films dig deeper. Like, as a film progresses, it is continually digging deeper into its themes, into its characters, into its elements that it's trying to portray. And I think this film does a fantastic job to where every progressive scene, I felt like I was digging deeper into her psyche, digging deeper into her emotions and her desires and her wants. And I just found that so beautiful to see on screen. It's so rare for me, like from the films that I've seen, it's so rare to see a film with a woman protagonist who is just, it's almost like we're entering into her psyche, into a very, almost like in a uncomfortable way, because it's just showing stuff that maybe people don't want to talk about or say. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the other film that I watched earlier this year. I didn't review it for the channel, but The Lost Daughter, and how that tackled motherhood and being a woman dealing with that aspect of her life. And this film almost felt like a prequel to that, to where it was dealing with womanhood and almost like in the structures and the gender structure and the social structures of what a woman is expected to do or be. And I think this film really destroys that idea and concept by having such a eclectic and strange protagonist. There's many times where you like are not rooting for her and you're not really liking her, but then there's other moments where you just absolutely, or me specifically, I was just absolutely like falling in love with the ideas and the way she was living her life. Like, it was just very captivating. And then there's like characters in the film that I can tell that's why they're interested in her, because she's so herself. And it's just so beautiful to see a character that is, you know, not black and white, but just a varying shade of gray, and then a varying shade of gray that is constantly changing. And I love that about the film. And then one last thing about the narrative that I want to talk about is I absolutely love the structure. The film has like these little chapter breaks, and it, like, I think it's like 5 or 6 chapters, where it kind of like, you know, sets you up for the next moment. And it makes the film almost feel like a collage of events and a collage of people and experiences. And I absolutely adore that when people pull it off and they label it like that. It just feels so captivating to me, and I just love that. And then the next element that I want to get into is the visuals. I absolutely adored the majority of the visuals in this film. It was obviously shot on film, which is absolutely beautiful. I love it. That's my favorite aesthetic. Anything that's not shot on film, I kind of find not as visually engaging for me. I just love the grain. I love the way it captures color. And in this film, it captures color so beautifully. A lot because of the format they chose to shot on, but also the cinematographer, what he does with lighting. And it always feels like a realistic lighting that he's using, and it feels very naturalistic and minimal. But then there's moments in the film where it breaks reality multiple times, and it's just so interesting, because the first time they break reality, I'm like, oh, okay, this is awesome, and I love it. And then they break reality a different way a second time, and then a third time, and every time it's just so beautiful to see, and it reinforces the whole narrative and the whole emotion and the whole story and plot, and then the character of this woman. And that is so just engrossing to see visuals reinforce a character element with such specificity and with a feeling. There's a moment, oh my god, there's a sequence in this film that I just found so provocative and so engaging and so interesting, and it was just captured so beautifully, and it captured the feeling that this character was feeling. And I was just like, oh, like I could drool watching this specific scene that I won't spoil, but it captures a feeling that I think every person must have felt in their life at one point or another, or multiple points, or like me, I feel it every damn day where I wish I could do something and then have no consequence for it. So that's one sequence that I won't spoil, but absolutely beautiful. And there's a second sequence that breaks reality that is just so phenomenal, and it just digs into the subconscious of our character and her internal fears and her wants and desires. And then it's funny, and it's emotional, and it's devastating in a way, but then it's also like ridiculous, and it's just perfect. Both of those sequences are like, if I were to make a best scenes of the year, both of those would be in automatically because they're just so amazing. So the visuals and the cinematography I absolutely loved. I love the like mixture of visuals, and this is something so interesting because I love when a film has a certain image, well, it has a certain visual palette, and then it sticks to it, you know, like where it has a conscious point of what the visuals are doing to you, the viewer. And this film had multiple like styles that it was like diving into. You know, there was the realism aspect, and then there was the, you know, the breaking of reality aspects that were filmed in such interesting, unique ways. And then there was just a lot of uses of like small techniques that I absolutely love. Just some beautiful wide shots of the city that she lives in, and like her experiencing her environment. That was just so beautiful. And then there was just these beautiful moments captured in like close-ups, and then in wide shots and almost like portraits. There's moments where the lighting is like heightened in a way to where it feels almost surreal, but then it is real in an interesting way. And then there's just, I don't know, just visually, it's like all over the place, but in a way that makes so much sense because it only reinforces the feeling of you being that character, of you being this woman on her journey in life. And I just found that so amazing. And then the next element I want to talk about, because I'm already at the 20-minute mark here, is the music and the score of the film. I absolutely loved the score. It was just so perfect, and it punctuates all the emotional beats in a very minimal way. I feel like if you watch this movie, you might not notice the music, but I did, and I noticed that it was doing things to me, and it was heightening the experience of viewing it. So I just think the score was absolutely amazing, beautiful, and honestly just super captivating. So that is going to bring me to my rating and my outro. So, man, one last thing I want to talk about the narrative is I loved how each character felt so, like it felt so in-depth. Specifically, there's two male characters that are in the film, and I just love how the film portrayed them and made them feel absolutely real. Like, I feel like I could know two people just like those two people. Honestly, one of the guys felt literally like me. Like, he was doing things and saying things that I think I would want to say and would want to do, and that was very disorienting because I was like, oh, he's kind of well, he's not a piece of shit, but he's kind of, like, you can tell he's not the right person for her in certain moments, but then at other moments you can tell he is the right person for her, and then vice versa with the other male character. And it's just so cool seeing how this filmmaker and this writer and then the performers, how they were able to capture these characters so easily and so rapidly through the film, and then me having a connection with all of them at the same time, still having that deep connection with the female protagonist. So absolutely awesome. I just love this film so much. A lot of the stuff I want to talk about and I want to say is spoiler territory, and then also because I talked to Scott about the whole film so much, I feel kind of vacant in my brain. I feel like I've said a lot of what I want to say currently. This is definitely a film I will rewatch. It is just at the very top of quality. We'll just put it this way. So for my rating, it is obviously going to be a 10 out of 10. I think this film is a masterpiece. And then one thing I want to talk about, because this is my first 10 out of 10 on this channel, my rating system is kind of weird. So when I say a 10 out of 10, I don't mean a perfect film. I don't really believe any film is like technically perfect, and I mean objectively perfect. So when I give a rating, and when I say this film is a 10 out of 10, I'm rating the film on what I think the film is trying to do. So what I think this film's goal was to get me into the psyche of this woman, get me to feel what she feels, and get me to understand what the crux of the whole narrative is. And I think the whole narrative is about you trying to go through your life and find some sort of meaning and happiness and also structure, but then also the availability to be free and to feel and to live in the moment. And I think this film captured that to an absolute T. And for that reason, I think it's a 10 out of 10. Because I think not only did the narrative was just rock solid, and not only were the visuals completely supporting that and heightening it every opportunity it got, and not only was the music there backing it all, it was just all across the spectrum. Everything was just supporting itself, and it was just a multiplying factor. And that's, for me, what makes a film a masterpiece, and that's what makes this film a 10 out of 10. And I think that'll be kind of where I wrap this up. I absolutely love it. We'll just say this. If I do count this as a 2021 film, this is my new favorite favorite film of 2021, which is a huge statement because I absolutely adore and love The French Dispatch. But this film specifically, if there was one film, if this is a 2021 film, this would be the one film from 2021 that if I could rewrite, like if someone were to present this narrative to me, I wish I could have written this film. I wish I could have directed this film. I wish I could have done the cinematography for this film. I wish I could have scored it. It hits all the things that I love personally about storytelling, which is a very grounded story, a story about emotions, relationships. I love romantic things. I'm a sucker for like romance. And then this did it did something that I didn't know I love, which was like almost like an anti-romance. And I loved all those elements, and I just can't wait to rewatch it again. The lead actress is just by far my favorite actress. If it is a 2021 film, she would hands down be my favorite actress of 2021. I loved all her scenes. Oh my god, there's one scene that I will spoil that I think it's in the trailers, and it's in like some posters. And this is something else that the visuals do that I forgot to mention, is the use of like slow-mo in certain parts. There's this part, and oh my god, there's this sequence that's just absolutely beautiful. And I can't even spoil it, crap. But there's a scene in it that I just found so beautiful and so like beautifully captured, and then also just the visual metaphor of what these people were doing was beautiful. But it was this man and the lead actress, and the lead actress is smoking a cigarette and then like letting the smoke out, and then this male is like inhaling it, and that just perfectly captures a lot of who she is and a lot of who that guy is and a lot of what that situation is about. And I thought that was beautiful. It was amazing. It was captured in 5 seconds, but that's the kind of stuff that I love and that I look for in cinema. So I absolutely love this film. If it's around you and anything I said interests you, go watch it. It's called The Worst Person in the World. Beautiful film. I'm so excited it got nominated for Best Original Screenplay in the Oscars. I didn't think it would get in because no one had seen the movie, and also it's a foreign film. I mean, that's the other thing. It's a foreign film, so you're gonna have to read subtitles unless you know the language that this film is from, which I haven't checked yet. But yeah, so that's gonna wrap this review up. I just want to say thanks to Scott, and big shout out to him. It was actually really awesome having the ability to watch the film with him. I haven't watched the film with someone in a long time, as you can tell, because I'm always alone in my car. But it was awesome catching up with him, and it was awesome experiencing this film with him. And then also I was kind of joking about it earlier about feeling burnt out because I've already talked about the film with him, but it actually felt really good airing a lot of my thoughts out, especially the spoilers, because I think I would have struggled more just jumping into this review immediately because my mind was just reeling with all the moments and sequences. So to be able to talk that out before this recording was actually super helpful, super fun. And yeah, check out his channel. It will happen. It'll be in the description below. But yeah, so that'll do it for this review and immediate impressions of The Worst Person in the World. Check out all my other stuff below. I should have some other channels coming at some point. Whenever it gets done, it will get done. And like and subscribe this video. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch my reviews. It means a lot to me. I love talking about movies, and let me know your comments and your thoughts about this film if you've seen it. So that'll do it for this week, and I'll see you next week. See ya!